Okay, here's the next video in the series of my opinion of best sprinklers and stuff like that. We're gonna get onto spray bodies now. So this is more of like, not necessarily nozzles, but just like the bodies themselves, like Rainbow 1800s, Hunter Pro sprays. Just all your typical ones you'd see, even Toro. I'd say to start off, I would not recommend Toro. Like kind of like how I explained in my last video about like their mouth thread nozzle design, how that can be pretty annoying. Here, let me show you. I guess I'll show you again in this video. Just the threads are like, if it will focus good enough. The threads are kind of, see if it will show. Let me reposition the camera actually. Okay. Whoops. So as you can tell, like the filter's underneath the threads, so it can make it a lot harder, especially when the filter's got a lot of grit and like dirt in it and rocks and sand. It can be pretty hard to get a screwdriver and pull it up, because then it gets stuck up, and then those threads block it from coming out fully. So that's why I don't like Toro's nozzles and there's 570 series spray bodies. But now I'm going to talk about the actual reliability of them. So I would say, from my experience, I've seen a lot of this is the current style. They've had like 3 styles over the years. Well, technically 4, but their first ones they looked kind of like the K-Rain K sprays. I have it in if you watch my sprinkler inventory video I put out almost, not a year ago, but about 8 months ago or so. That will show the evolution of Toros. Then there's the second generation ones, the ones that were in my grandparents' system that I did videos of. And this is the current one. I guess this came out in the late 90s, I believe, mid-ish late 90s when this design came out. But originally they had a black wiper seal, and then they switched to a white seal. But these current ones are by far the worst, actually. It's surprising because this is a newer design. I mean, yes, they've made the ratcheting risers a standard feature versus an optional feature, but I've seen just very, very many, many just quality issues over the years. Like my grandparents' system, we've put in a few Toros. I think my grandpa put in a few back like 10 years ago, and they've already seemed to some of them have already broken. I've seen, especially with low pressure, they do make a low pressure one for like it says like LP on it, but I don't know. I'm not gonna risk using one of those. Like I could still see it being, still just simply with the mouth thread nozzles, I'm not gonna buy it. But yeah, I've seen some of them like. So you see the seal. I've seen sometimes they'll so what happens is these, especially with low pressure, or if the seals, and on top of that, when seals get very dirty, and their seals are very stiff, so like sometimes the head won't pop up. Other heads will pop up, but the Toros, and I've experienced this on multiple systems, they just won't pop up. So then you have to get a screwdriver to pull it up, and then once you pull it up, it just stays up the whole time. It's like just the seals get very stiff and hard, and then it just basically hugs the risers where it just won't want to go up and down automatically. And I've seen it get so bad where I guess in every one of them I'm assuming it never popped up because it just got bad enough to where the seal actually the seal actually started breaking through the plastic of the cap, so it just kind of about around the kind of the edge of the cap right here, it kind of just cracked open a little. About half of the cap was just cracked partly because the seal was just jammed. And yeah, and then I've seen many of these also. I've seen a lot of them leak. I haven't seen as many leak, but I've seen more of them just not pop up and pop down. But there's one of them I saw that was just, I've seen 1 or 2 of these that will just shoot up in the air badly. But yeah, enough bashing on Toros. Let's get to the good stuff, Rainbow and Hunter. I guess I'll mention Orbit real quick. Orbit's, I don't know, honestly, I'd say Orbit's probably better than Toro in some ways. I don't know, I've just had better experiences with Orbit, even though it's still not that good of a brand either. K-Rain's, same thing as Orbit, I'd say Orbit. Well, Orbit's supposed to be a low tier. I'd say it's more lowish mid tier. Toro is supposed to be a premier brand. I'd consider them lower tier. And K-Rain's kind of a lowish mid tier. Depends. I've seen they get sold at both hardware stores and professional stores. Although most of my local professional stores don't even stock K-Rain or even Toro. Funny story though. the one company that actually used Toro in my city that were actually like known for using Toros. Our distributor got them to full on switch from Toro because yeah they've had bad experiences with Toro too. So it's just every company pretty much hates Toro. So yeah, because Toro, I'll admit they were pretty good back in the 1980s to 90s, but then it just got pretty bad quality from there on, from the late 90s on, and then discontinued their legendary Toro Super 700 rotor and replaced it with the T5 rotor. That was it. Toro was just not good anymore. Okay, sorry, I got distracted again. Toro. Back to the real stuff. Rainbird Hunter. This is a Rainbird Sherpop, the 600 series Sherpop. 300 series is like a 2.5 inch, which is odd. 2.5 inch instead of a 2 inch or 3 inch pop up. That's a 300 series. 600 series, same thing, just 4 inch pop up. These are by far one of the other bad heads, just almost as bad as Toro. Actually, probably worse than Toro in some ways. These I've seen so many of them break. Well, simply how many? If you think Rainbow 1800s have no threads, look at these threads. It's nothing. I've seen it. I've seen like especially on above ground heads or even in ground. I've seen with both. The cap will loosen up over the years, especially like because I live in a freezing climate, so I've seen some of these where it just gets loose, where it's just shooting under the cap. And if you think that's not the only place it leaks at. You can see the wiper seal's exposed in like 6 different places. So these things have just I've seen too many of them leak. I would not recommend these. Luckily, these are only sold at Lowe's and Home Depot. They're not at your professional stores. So yeah, I wouldn't. Honestly, good rule of thumb is if you're replacing sprinklers, especially if you want to be a professional, don't go to Lowe's and Home Depot if possible. Yeah, their hours are a lot more flexible than like local distributors, but if you really want the quality stuff, I'd recommend like going to I'll name it just to name a few: DBC and their family of companies, Heritage Plus and their family of companies, Slight One Landscape Supply, Ewing Outdoor Supply. Those are like some big ones I would recommend. And there's a few other big namers out there. Can't remember them on the top of my head right now, but there's a number of them. So I'd say another thing is 2 inch heads. Now with gardens, if you have like a really like if you have a garden and the heads are above ground and they're maybe like they're just like maybe let's say they're about like the cap's about an inch above the dirt. If you have very small flowers, 2 inch might not be as big of a deal, but if you have really tall flowers, you may want a 4 inch or maybe even a 6 inch or 12 inch. It just depends. For lawn though, never use 2 inch ones. They'll pop up. They pop up half as much as a 4 inch, and from my experience, these have just when they get buried, the stream gets blocked very easily. Like you could have it at ground level, just like a 4 inch, but it's only going to pop up 2 inches instead of 4, so it gets blocked very easily, especially if you have taller mowing heights. In fact, sometimes if you have really tall mowing heights, you might actually want to consider getting a 6 inch head. Otherwise, though, 4 inch is your typical industry standard. But yeah, I'll throw that one over. This is my drum set, by the way. I'll do another video on that someday. But I'll just throw the Sherpop with the Toro, since that's it for those two. So yeah, when it comes down to it, I'd say your two big ones are your Rainbird 1800s and your Hunter Pro Sprays. I'll admit, I used to not really like Hunter that much, but I've actually started to like Hunter a lot more now. Like I'm actually at this point, I'm almost in a big debate if Hunter is actually better or not than Rainbird. Like I think they're both pretty equally good. I would say from my experience, like Hunters aren't as good for low pressure. Like they are definitely, I don't know. I think they're definitely like stronger. The stronger spring ain't a bad thing. But if you have low pressure, like my grandparents' system, the 1800s already struggle to pop up a little bit. So Pro Spray with the stronger spring might not be that good of an idea for really low pressure. But if you have high pressure, now on Hunter's video, they did show that like these can handle a burst rate of like 600 psi, where the 1800s were maybe, I don't know, was it 250, 300 psi, something like that. So these can handle higher pressure. Not that you're going to have high pressure, but that's just to show that if circumstances got bad, these are more, I'd say these are more commercial grade. Now, I will say overall Hunter is a little more on the pricier side. Like they're usually like anywhere from like 20 cents to $1 more than a Rainbird, but it's not really that big of a deal though. It just depends on preference if you're willing to spend that much, but otherwise, I do like the Pro Sprays now quite a bit. I would say with quality between the Pro Sprays and 1800s, is that there's honestly I haven't really had too many problems with either one. I'd say though you are gonna see more Rainbird 1800s league because they have way more threads in the Sure Pop, but still less threads in the Pro Spray, and they do have a looser seal, so I've seen them leak out of the seals more. Not very often, but just occasionally. A Pro Spray, I've never seen a Pro Spray leak, but I have seen a lot more of these stick up. So it's almost like the seal's looser on the Rainbirds, to where it's more likely to leak versus stick up. Whereas the Pro Sprays, these ones are I've seen more Pro Sprays stick up because their seals are a lot thicker, but at the same time, like I've never seen these leak. I've only seen them stick up, but the only ones I really see stick up are like 20 plus years old. So yeah, it's 20 years old. It kind of makes more sense for them to stick up. But otherwise, though, either one I think either one is overall pretty good. Although I will say for MP rotators, because those are my favorite rotary nozzles, as explained in my nozzle video, that I hopefully should have uploaded before this one. Yeah, I'd recommend ProSpray PRS40s for pressure regulation, because here's the reason is Rainbird 1800s, their pressure regulated ones are 45 psi for the R vans, whereas the ProSpray PRS40 it's 40 psi versus 45 psi. So just 40 psi is better for the MPs than 45 psi. But yeah, the other big thing is like Rainbird. I don't have it with me right now, but their flush caps they shoot up in the air. So like when you have a flush cap on an 1800, they're not good quality because they'll just it's just like an orange. It's like usually orange colored, and it's got like a little tab that on the top that will shoot up. Whereas Hunters, they have their nice ones where it's got like first of all, you got this piece right here where when you put it in, this protects dirt from getting down the flush cap and down into the pipes. It's a very nice thing. And then also make sure you always do this when you turn them on, before you turn them on. I learned it the hard way. Is like the little protection piece when you're about to flush the lines, remove it so it looks like this. So then because I've learned that because then they'll shoot in a straight stream versus like if you have it on like this, it'll just shoot more. It'll kind of like it'll diffuse it and kind of make it shoot up more and make it more of a mess. So yeah, but I do love the flush caps on the Hunters way more. So I would say for new installs, if you need to flush a line, the pro sprays are a lot handier. Having just those flush caps, and usually if you go to like a professional store, now I put nozzles on all these bodies, most of them pretty much, but usually you're gonna have a flush cap built into a spray body. But yeah, and then another one, I guess I'll mention the Hunter PS Ultra spray bodies. I have like 5 of them in my collection. 4 of them, well, these 2 are going to be going for a project, which I'm going to do in a video explaining my plans for the year of 2026. But these ones have the extra large filter screen. Now, I will say, if you get the ones PS Ultra with a flush cap, then you're not going to get the extra large filter screen. But if you get one with the built-in Pro adjustable nozzle, or I think the other nozzle's a side strip nozzle, then I think you do get the extra large filter screen, which it goes from basically from the inlet right where you can see it all the way up to about to where maybe to here where the bottom of the nozzle filter is, to get really good filtration. The PS Ultras, I do like these quite a bit too. These ones I've seen there's a few companies from my neighboring cities that because they use a lot more Hunter, and these are definitely a more common one. And these I've seen a few of them, one or two. I've only seen 1 or 2 of them stick up, but they also look like they had a lot of sand in them too. To be fair, but these are pretty good though. Extra large filter screen. If you have if you have reclaimed water, like just dirty water, and you're using spray heads, use these. These will, with the extra large filter screens, you'll ensure that you get extra protection before you actually have to worry about a clogged nozzle. So yeah, these are pretty good. And they're also another good thing. They are a little higher. Like they do have they pop up oranges, but they do have like a taller cap and canister. I don't know, something that's a little taller. So if I compare it just to like a 4-inch Pro Spray, you're gonna see a little bit of a difference. So like as you can tell, like the Pro Spray goes to pretty much the tip of the top of the Pro Spray goes to like the bottom of this cap of the PS Ultra. So in a way, it can be a good and a bad thing. If you're placing an 1800 Pro Spray that's buried an inch or 2 in the ground, a PS Ultra might be worth putting in. But if you're replacing one of these that's at ground level, then you install one of these. It's just going to be, it's going to be too high above ground, which is like how I said in my nozzle video. That's why I've seen one. That was like the only reason I've seen the one or two pro adjustable nozzles break is because it was probably about like this high above, probably like about this part right here, right like about a few centimeters. Let's see, from about here, about like a centimeter or two under the cap was at ground level, so it was pretty high above ground. But yeah, so I'd say for low pressure, and also if you need something more affordable, 1800s I'd say. But then if you need something more professional grade, especially higher pressures or more commercial qualities, I guess is how you could put it, I'd recommend a Pro Spray. And if you need pressure regulation, Pro Spray PRS40. We also do have a PRS30 that is good for spray nozzles. So the brown caps are for sprays and the gray caps are for MP rotators. Now I need to clarify one thing that I've seen people make the mistake of before. When installing spray nozzles, you do not want to put spray nozzles on the gray-bodied Pro Spray PRS40s because this is my concern. It's like, why spend extra money? Like, let's say your pressure is 40 or 45 psi, and you're using spray nozzles. Well, if you put a spray nozzle on the PRS40, it'll just reduce it to 40 psi, but that's still not good because you want 30 psi, not 40 psi. So, yeah, so I just ultimately keep the sprays on the brown cap PRS30 or 1800 that says PRS. Either it says PRS, just those three letters, or PRS30. If it says PRS45, that's for rotaries. And then like PRS40, the same thing with the MPs. You want ideally put them on the PRS40s, but PRS30s, if you need that minimum radius that you just can't get with the PRS40, that's like the one exception. Like especially even Hunter recommends with it, especially the MP800 SR. If you need that like really short 6 feet radius, you might actually want to consider a PRS30 for that. But otherwise, though, their pressure regulation did. PRS30 versus 40 or 45 psi, there's a different pressure regulation options for a reason. So yeah, sprays, I'd say always keep sprays at 30 psi if possible. Rotary nozzles there's a little more flexibility, but sprays always 30 psi